Hello and welcome to Office Hours. I am Greg Yatman. With me today and always, hopefully, is Mehmet Yavuz. He is our CTO here at Celona. If you've not tuned in before, know that Office Hours is a deep dive into technology, some of the issues that we're facing today, specifically around 5G LAN, CBRS, and a wide variety of other topics. Today, we're talking about 5G and the avionics or airline industry. So most of you, or some of you, may have seen in the news recently that there has been some controversy around 5G and potential interference. So I thought I'd go to the expert and see if Mehmet can give some insight into is 5G interfering with airplanes, and if so, what are we or the agencies that deal with this going to be doing about it? So Mehmet, if you wouldn't mind, let's jump in.
Of course. Hi, Greg. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so there's some recent excitement in the 5G world and controversy about will 5G bring down the airplanes and all that. So first of all, the controversy is not related to CBRS. This is about the new spectrum band. It's a different spectrum band called C-band. Just as a reminder, CBRS is in the frequency range 3.55 to 3.7 gigahertz. And there's been a lot of successful commercial deployments in the field for more than a year now. Now, this new band, the C band, is above the CBRS, and it's from 3.7 to 4 gigahertz. And this C band was really auctioned about a year ago, and a lot of licensing auctions happened in different regions. AT&T and Verizon got a big chunk of the spectrum. There was about $80 billion FCC got from this spectrum. And then, okay, what is the issue? This new spectrum band, C-band, 3.7 to 4 gigahertz, happens to be close to the specific spectrum range that the airplane altimeters use. And those altimeters in the airplanes are used to help airplanes to know the altitude of the airplane as it approaches to the airport. And again, a little bit more than a year ago, I believe the RTCA has issued a report pointing out the potential issue. And I have a picture here that will help me describe the issue a little bit more. This is showing the spectrum range, the 3700 megahertz or 3.7 gigahertz to 3.98, which is almost 4 gigahertz. So this blue region is the C-band, the new C-band for 5G. And these airplane altimeters operate in this 4.2 to 4.4 gigahertz. And what you see here is the emission, RF emission mask, right? The 5G spectrum mask is such that the energy rolls off sharply after the end of this spectrum range. And then there's a little bit energy maybe spreading, which is called spurious emission. These altimeters in the airplanes, which are basically radar measuring the height of the airplane, have a much looser, much shallower spectrum mask. So they collect energy from a wide range, essentially, right? And some of this blue energy from the 5G base stations may leak into the receiver of these altimeters on the airplane. So that is the main concern. And of course, this is a function of how close the 5G base stations are, how much power they are transmitting, which direction the antennas are pointing towards. All of those things come into picture here. Hopefully that made sense.
It did, and I like the graph. We don't often do that on these episodes. That was really nice.
Yeah, and that graph is, by the way, from RTCA. That agency, published that graph.
Well, thank you for the official documentations and references. So we know it's real. It's not something we just pulled off the internet and figured it was good enough. So let's talk about the altimeters, right? They're an important part of any airplane. I'd say without them, they'd be in big trouble. So people smarter than myself and most people that are probably listening have been working on avionics a long time. So why aren't they using better filters? What is it that's happened that they just didn't see this coming, or it wasn't an issue? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, first of all, I'm not an expert, right? I've been reading about this for some time to understand more, but it looks like there are redundant mechanisms in an airplane to measure the altitude, but altimeter is one of them, right? And these altimeters, I think the filters and so forth were designed a long time back. And at that time, maybe they didn't have the technology for sharper filters, or maybe they didn't really worry so much about it because there wasn't a widespread use of the spectrum. So for whatever reason, those specifications were not very tight. Now, as I understand, RTCA and the European counterpart is coming up with much better filters, but those filters will take some time for the whole airplane industry to be adapted, and even the existing altimeters to be replaced will take some time. So until that is done, there needs to be some solution in place to ensure full safety, right, of the airplanes and so forth.
All right, perfect. So you referenced RTCA, RTCA, FAA. These are all U.S. based, as far as I know, organizations. So is this just a U.S. problem, or are we seeing this wider across the world?
Yeah, I mean, it is a great question because 5G is, of course, a global technology, and we'll talk about private 5G deployments, but the more licensed spectrum deployments has been happening in the last year plus in these bands globally. And I was looking into this, and as far as I could find, there's been only out of like about 40 countries where 5G base stations got deployed in a band similar to C-band. In those countries, amongst those countries, only 3 of them, as far as I could find, France, Canada, and Japan, has some kind of regulation where they limit the 5G base station deployments near the airports. Basically, what they do is they drove some geofence, maybe a few hundred meters around the airport landing fields, and those specific regions, they put constraints on the 5G base stations, either preventing them or limiting the transmit power. But the other countries don't seem to care about it as much, which makes me think that maybe this is, at least for those countries, not as severe of an issue. I'm not sure, but U.S. administration has been very careful about this, and they wanted to ensure full safety, of course. And I think about 10 days ago or so, there was a resolution, end of January timeframe, where basically the current consensus is to limit the deployment of 5G base stations around the airport areas in US until a further resolution is in place. So AT&T and Verizon basically said, okay, we will limit the rollout of these 5G networks around the airports until the FAA comes to some kind of resolution between the different industries.
Okay, so it sounds like it's well in hand. You know, they're taking care of it. They're establishing safe ranges within the airports in the U.S. and it sounds like beyond around the world as well. They're most likely going to look into the upgrade of filters, which it sounds like it's going to take a while for those filters to be installed or upgraded. Is that correct?
Yeah, that may take some time, as I understand. And I think right now there is abundance of caution, right? I think right now there's okay. Let's not deploy any in this near airport regions, any 5G base stations in C-band. I expect over time, when further analysis is done, they may say, okay, these are the specific transmit power values that are allowed. These are the specific constraints for the antennas. Antennas may not be allowed to face in certain directions where the airplanes are coming. So I think there will be more detailed regulation in place. That's my guess. But right now, everyone wants to be very, cautious about safety and ensure there is no risk of any impact, right?
Absolutely. This is an industry that doesn't like risk. They're tremendously risk averse. And I know that myself and yourself, we are going to be getting on flights long distance in the very near future. We appreciate that caution. With that, I think that unless there's any other added comments, I want to give a synopsis for folks. One, CBRS is not affecting this problem, this issue at all, right?
Correct.
If you are interested in Celona and 5G LAN, and you are in the aviation industry, know that you can talk to us and you should be all right. And finally, on our next episode, although we just dived into this a little bit, talking about the global implications of 5G, we will be talking about the different bands and the 5G rollout, 5G LAN rollout across or around the world. And Mehmet is our guide into that conversation. Does that sound good to you, Mehmet, and the rest of you?
Absolutely, absolutely. There is a lot of exciting things happening globally for 5G LAN, and we see new spectrum opening up, just like CBRS band in Europe, in Asia. So we should definitely talk about those specific spectrum options and what are the opportunities opening up in different regions.
Great. Well, thank you, Mehmet, and thank you for joining us today. Until the next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and make sure that if you want to get connected, you get connected with us here at Office Hours and Celona. Until the next time, bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.